Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible rulebook that pretty much governs our entire economy, the Competition Act. It's a really powerful law, and it's all designed to make sure businesses play fair, which ultimately protects you and me, the consumer. So let's break down how it all works. Ugh, yeah, we've all been there, right? You feel totally powerless, like the game is just rigged against you. Well, those frustrations, that's exactly what happens when business competition breaks down and there aren't any rules to keep the biggest players in check. And that's where this law swoops in. You can think of the Competition Act of 2010 as the referee for Pakistan's entire economy. Its whole job is to ensure there's a level playing field where cool new ideas and fair prices win out, not just brute market force. So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into the core mission of the Act. Then, we'll shine a light on the tactics of what we're calling market bullies and expose the shady world of illegal backroom deals. After that, we'll see how the law fights against false advertising. And finally, we'll look at what happens when corporate giants try to team up. Okay, so first up, a rulebook for fair play. Let's dig right into the core idea that drives this entire law. And that big idea is all about protecting people like us. See, the law does this by making sure there's free and fair competition. When companies actually have to compete for your business, it forces them to be more efficient, to innovate, and that naturally stops them from jacking up prices unfairly or letting quality slide. And the reach of this law is huge. It applies to basically every single business operating in the country. All right, let's talk about the first major problem this law goes after, the market bully. This is what happens when one company gets so big, so powerful, that it can just do whatever it wants, completely ignoring its competitors and even its own customers without any fear of consequences. So what does dominant actually mean in this context? Well, a company has a dominant position when it can pretty much act all on its own without having to worry about what competitors are doing or what its customers might think. Basically, they have unchecked power in their market. And the law gives us a really important number to watch for, 40%. If one single company controls over 40% of any market, doesn't matter if it's smartphones or bread, it's automatically presumed to be dominant. This number is a clear line in the sand. You cross it, and it sets off this massive red flag that triggers some very intense legal scrutiny. Now, this is a super important point. Just being dominant isn't illegal. Success isn't a crime. It's abusing that dominance that's against the law. And that abuse can look like this: jacking up prices for no good reason, or deliberately making less of something to create a shortage. It could be forcing you to buy product B just to get the product A you really want. That's called a tie-in. Or maybe dropping prices so ridiculously low that smaller competitors go out of business, only to raise them way up again later. These are total bully tactics, and they are all forbidden. So if a single market bully is bad, what about a whole group of them working together in secret? Well, that brings us to illegal secret deals. This is when companies get together behind closed doors and make agreements that just completely destroy the whole idea of a free market. This is a perfect rundown of the worst kinds of these deals. Just imagine competitors all getting on a call and agreeing to charge the same high price. That's price fixing. Or maybe they carve up the country into territories so they don't have to compete with each other. They might agree to produce less to keep prices artificially high, or rig bids on a big contract so they decide ahead of time who wins. All of this stuff is illegal because it creates the illusion of competition, when in reality, there's none at all. But not every single agreement between competitors is a bad thing. The law gets that. So it allows for exemptions, but, and this is a really big but, only if the deal actually helps consumers. There are two kinds. You've got individual exemptions for one specific deal and block exemptions for a whole category of similar deals. But the key takeaway here is this: to get an exemption, companies have to prove their deal makes things more efficient and that we, the consumers, get a fair slice of those benefits. All right, next up is something I think we've all had to deal with: fighting false promises. This part of the act is all about making sure that what companies tell you about their products and about their competitors' products is actually true. This image really captures that feeling, doesn't it? That confusion and doubt that a really misleading ad can create. The law steps in right here to make sure that businesses can't just lie to you to make a quick sale or to unfairly trash a competitor's reputation. And the law gets very specific about this. It's illegal to spread lies just to hurt another business. It's illegal to mislead customers about a product's real price, where it came from, or its quality. It also bans making bogus comparisons in ads, and of course, using another company's logo or packaging to try and trick people.
At the end of the day, it's all about enforcing some basic truth in the marketplace.
And finally, let's look at what happens when these corporate giants decide to merge and become one even bigger giant. These kinds of deals can totally change an entire industry overnight, which is exactly why the Competition Act keeps such a close eye on them.
So what counts as a merger in the eyes of the law? Well, the definition is actually pretty broad. It covers everything from two companies combining to make a brand new one, all the way to a big company just buying up the shares or critical assets of a smaller one. Basically, anytime there's a major shift in who's in control, the Act's merger rules can kick in.
So, how does the government actually review these huge deals? It's a really structured two-phase process. Phase 1 is a quick 30-day check. Is this merger going to create a dominant player? Remember that 40% market share number? If the answer is no, it's usually good to go. But if it does cross that line, it triggers a much deeper 90-day Phase 2 review. That's when investigators dig in to figure out if this new giant will seriously hurt competition. But here's the thing. Even if a merger looks like it's going to harm competition, it's not always a dead end. In some very rare and specific situations, it can still get approved. This might happen if the deal creates such massive efficiencies that the benefits to us, the consumers, clearly outweigh the harm to competition. There's also something called a failing firm defense, where a merger can get a green light if it's the only way to save a company that's about to go bankrupt. But make no mistake, the bar for these exceptions is set incredibly high. And this all brings us to one last really crucial question. This law gives us a strong foundation, but the world is changing so fast. With these global tech giants that are literally more powerful than many countries, are the rules that were designed for a national economy still enough to protect us in this new digital globalized future? It's a really important question for all of us to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.